it doesn't matter if you like baseball, if you don't care about baseball, if you, whatever your relationship is to your own parents. If when Kevin Costner says, "Dad, do you want to have a catch?" If you don't feel tears welling up in your eyes, there's something wrong with you.
Because the truth is, I also want to have a catch with my dad. That's all I want. That's what I realized. Like,
Yeah.
Ugh.
The thing that I found as the essence of the movie is a question. And the question is, what would you do to get 5 more minutes with a person you loved? Like, what are the lengths you would go to get 5 more minutes or a game of catch with someone you loved? And the answer that the movie suggests is anything. You would do anything. And this is part of why I took on the project of adapting it. It is a movie that, especially when you listen to me explain the plot, it sounds bananas, right? It's like this movie, this story has no business working as a narrative at all. It has no business being anything that it should have been for Kevin Costner, what Waterworld ended up being, right?
100%.
Which is like a famous flop. And yet, to his credit, and to Phil Alden Robinson's credit, who made the movie, and to everyone's credit who was involved with it, for some goddamn reason, when the movie ends, you cry. And the whole thing, holistically, ends up feeling like you went on a sort of beautiful, magical journey. And listen, there are plenty of people who hate the movie or just think it's schlocky and think it's that it's not a good baseball movie. It's not a good movie, period. I am not one of those people. I loved it when I first saw it. I still love it today, and that's why I decided to take on the project of trying to adapt it.
Well, let's talk about everything that happened, because you put work into this in a way that staggered me. Like, I'm not merely here to talk about Field of Dreams because it's a cultural artifact that actually is rich with symbolism that still resonates today. I want to do this story because you put yourself into the making of this in a way that feels not just unusual, but kind of crazy. Like, what? explain just the level of work that you put into this thing, which is now, we'll get to this too, now not a thing.
I was finishing the show The Good Place, and I work for NBC Universal, and they came to me and they were starting this new streamer, Peacock. And, you know, the point of a company like NBC Universal having a streamer is that they take their IP, their library, they blow the dust off the cover, and they breathe new life into it with reboots or updated versions or sequels or what have you. And they asked me about Field of Dreams because they knew I love baseball. And I was extremely reticent, I would say, at first. I never adapted anything that pre-existed before. I revere the movie and was scared of screwing it up. But eventually I thought, you know, I love baseball. I love that movie. I've never written about baseball. It sounds really hard. It sounds really difficult. And that usually in my life has meant that it's worth doing. And that is ultimately the thing that made me want to do it. So I said yes, finished The Good Place, took about 6 months probably to just try to think of the approach vector, how to do this, how to satisfy the people who love the movie and win over the people who don't. That was the challenge. And so for the next, year, I would say, it was probably 18 or 20 months from beginning to end. I broke out the story. It was going to be 7 hours long, a sort of like mini series, limited series with the possibility of future versions, future seasons. Got a writing staff together. We wrote the 7 scripts and we did a lot of casting. We had lined up to be in it. Andre Braugher was going to play James Earl Jones's role.
Oh, that's good.
Kristen Bell was going to be in it. Nick Offerman was going to be in it. Will Harper, who played Chidi on The Good Place, was going to be in it.
Right.
And we then began construction on a baseball field in a cornfield in Iowa. So Morgan Sackett, who is the longtime producer of most of the stuff I've ever done, is from Iowa. And so he had a lot of knew a lot of folks there, and we had a location manager. And what happens is you go to a site in Iowa, and you drive through endless fields of corn, and you come upon a beautiful, picturesque white farmhouse. And you look around, and you think like, yeah, this could work. Seems like the right kind of look here. And then you go, okay, let's go to the next one. And then you drive for 48 minutes through cornfields, and you arrive at a nearly identical white farmhouse. And you're like, yeah, this could also work. And we just did that. It was insane. It was maddening. It was like for 2 days, all we did is drive through cornfields and come upon white farmhouses and then nod and say, yes, this could also work.
How do you decide that this cornfield, this White House, is our cornfield, our house?
Great question. Part of it was that the one we found was actually on a little rise. Iowa's pretty damn flat, and the house that we found was on a little bit of a hill, which makes it look very picturesque. The way that the driveway moved from the house out to the main road was perfect. The farm itself was enormous. It was several thousand acres, which meant that the nearest highly trafficked roads were very far away, so there wasn't a lot of sound. It was just perfect. It like all the other ones were workable. This one was perfect. So we made a deal. We essentially rented 6 or so acres, I think, from the farmers in question, and we began construction on a baseball field. And we laid out the dimensions, and look, it was exactly like the movie. It was going to be major league dimensions. I think it was 330 down the lines and 385 to center, and there were lights, and there were risers for the audience or the crowd to sit in. I mean, it is a professionally made field. It is stunning. It's perfectly flat.
And it's being tended to, or no?
Oh, it's got a full irrigation system, Pablo. It's got it has a full irrigation system. We went as far as to bury the power lines that ran along the road leading up to it so that we would have better sight lines for cameras.
Amazing.
And it terminated in just cornfield, just like the movie. And we were going to shoot in August when the corn is high and the whole deal.
Okay, so at this point in the whole deal, as much as Mike and I have clear farming credibility, you may be wondering about the actual people whose corn this was, whose house was on that hill right next to this field of dreams. So are we.
I'm Anna Meckley. This is my husband, Tyler Meckley. We live in Polk City, Iowa, and our profession is farming.
It's corn and soybeans, and then we have a herd of cattle. Since 1854, they homesteaded the area. 8 generations would be our kids, and it's been a while.
And now it was 2022, and here were these 2 strangers, these outsiders, Mike and his producer Morgan from Hollywood, making these visits. And even still, Anna and Tyler had no idea what these people might want their farm for.
A few months later, we got a phone call from Morgan that said, I think you're the place we want to be. And we said at that point, that sounds great, but can you disclose what's happening? And then he's told us Field of Dreams, and I think we agreed right then and there that this is the opportunity that we want.
That's what ultimately is the sort of saddest thing about this, is that we went as far as you can possibly go,
Right.
without actually doing the thing that we set out to do.
Which is extraordinarily cruel, because the whole fucking premise of Field of Dreams, as stated, is if you build it, they will come.
They will come.
And what you got was, if you build it, you'll get a Deadline Hollywood headline that says Field of Dreams has struck out at Peacock, period.